Hello everyone and welcome to some fun games from the Aimchess Rapid Division 1 winner section. We're going to show both games as they both just finished and they are fairly short. First one is Fabiano Caruana with the white pieces where he plays pretty much like Tal. He tries going all out against Magnus, so we will very much enjoy what happens. And second one, even shorter, Nodirbek Abdusataro versus Levon Aronyan, who also play a really complicated game, but only 21 moves well, you'll see what I mean by this. That's why I'm putting two games in one video. So let's check it out. Fabi has the white pieces. This is the semifinals of the Aimchess Rapid. Let's check it out. Fabi opens with pawn to e4. And of course, by now, you all know what Magnus replies to e4. We have pawn to c5, the Sicilian defense. Knight f3, e6, and pawn to d4. Fabi not afraid of an open fight. We have c captures, knight captures, and knight to c6. We have knight to c3 and queen to c7, the Bastrikov variation of the Taimanov Sicilian. Bishop to e3, and now pawn to a6. All been played before, nothing new here. Pawn to g4 by Fabi, pawn to h6, and pawn to h4. And here, there are some games where knight to f6 was played, also knight to e5 is a known move, but Magnus plays pawn to b5, and it is now as of move 8 that we have a completely new game. So let's see how Fabi deals with this. He first trades knights on c6, we have captures, and now queen to d2, developing the queen, preparing castle's queen side, and then something like maybe queen to b2. But we have pawn to b4. Magnus says, but what about your e4 pawn? And Fabi says, you are welcome to feast yourself on that pawn. And okay, knight to e2, and Magnus says, all right, I will have some of that action, and I'm attacking your rook, so you still can't castle queen side. So rook to g1 also defends the g4 pawn, and now queen back to c4. Now, okay, you might run into some discoveries, but there just aren't any good discoveries here. And also, if the knight moves, Magnus will just move the queen back to c7, which is a pretty natural square in this line. So knight to f4 attacks the queen, just queen back to c7, and Fabi castles queen side. So you can see that Magnus only has a queen out, whereas Fabi has a developed rook, queen, bishop, knight, all that for the price of one pawn. So can he make something out of that? Well, Magnus continues development, knight to f6, and now bishop to g2 with tempo, but Magnus also develops by countering that bishop to b7, bishop captures, queen captures, and now even pawn to f3. Fabi offers another pawn, but this one is not as well, it's definitely a tasty pawn, but you can't really capture it. If you play a queen captures on f3, then pawn to g5, and already you're playing some sort of a weird attacking game. Captures, knights to d5, and now rook g to e1, and well, how are you getting that black king anywhere? g6 is coming, you can't even trade here because of queen captures on d7 checkmate, so maybe grabbing that f3 pawn is not worth it. So after f3, Magnus just plays rook to c8, and now we have pawn to g5. Fabi continues his attack, captures, and now knight to g8. But okay, g6 will come at some point, but also Magnus now has a fully open h-file for his rook, which he can use to get the rook into the attack if possible. We have bishop to d4. Now putting pressure on g7, so the bishop cannot move, and queen to c6. Now the white queen cannot move as the c2 pawn is threatened. This would be checkmate if the queen moves. So king to b1, and now rook to h4, putting pressure on that knight. And of course, we just said that the white queen cannot move, so rook captures on f4 wins the game, as queen cannot capture due to queen captures here. So pawn to b3, Fabi anticipates this, and he invites a rook captures on f4, but now it's not as potent, because now after rook captures and queen captures on c2 doesn't really do all that much. King to a1, and with this diagonal open, the bishop is doing a fine job at defending. So instead, after b3, knight to e7, now Magnus brings the knight into the game. Also by playing b3, Fabi somewhat weakened the c3 square, so the knight might come to c3 if you allow it. Also, the knight might come to f5 to put pressure on the bishop. So here we have bishop back to b2, and Magnus goes knight to f5. We have knight to d3 now, putting pressure on the b4 pawn, but not really. You can't really do anything about that. Again, if captures, the queen cannot capture because the c2 pawn will be weak. So we have bishop to d6, and now knight to e5, offering a trade here, attacking the queen. And even though it seems like the bishop is very strong here, the knight is stronger, so it's a good trade. Bishop captures, we have bishop captures, and now pawn to d6. Magnus just chases away the bishop, bishop to b2, and only now Magnus grabs the pawn. Queen captures on f3. He says, all right, you give me one pawn, now you're giving me the second pawn. Where is the counterplay? I'm up 2 pawns. Am I just completely winning here? Well, let's see. Pawn to g6. Fabi continues the attack. We have pawn to f6, and now rook g to e1. Putting pressure on the e6 pawn, but Magnus just very nicely plays king to d7, defending both d6 and e6 pawns. And now the problem is, if you go rook to f1 with some idea of capturing and here, so you can threaten the d6 pawn as the knight is covering that, queen can go back to c6 and just defend that pawn. It's not really a problem. So rook e2 here, and now we have rook to e4, offering a trade of rooks. We have rook to h2. Fabi still hoping to get a rook lift in, and now pawn to d5. We have pawn to a3, trying to get that pawn off of b4, captures, and now bishop to a1, but now Magnus is completely winning. We have knight to e3, attacking the rook here, and just rook to c1, and here the position is completely winning for Magnus. Feel free to pause the video and win the game in a classy way while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on not going for the boring knight to f1 fork. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is knight captures on c2. This is what Magnus played, and here Fabi already realized what is going on. There is not much you can do here. Rook captures on c2 was played. Queen captures on b3 with check. And now the problem is you can't go anywhere. Even if you try to give up a piece, look at this. Rook captures on c2. Queen captures, and now rook to e1 with check. The bishop cannot block, so you have to block with the queen. And now even a2 check. King a1, rook captures with check, bishop captures, and queen to b1 will be checkmate. So after this queen captures on b3 check, we have king to c1, but it doesn't help. Just rook captures on c2 check, and he was in this position on move 36 that Fabiano Caruana resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. The problem is, if you trade queen captures on c2, then it's just a checkmate. Rook to e1 check, king to d2, and queen to e3 is checkmate. And if you don't capture, if you play king to d1, not much better. Just queen to b1 check, only move queen to c1, and queen captures on c1 will be checkmate. So very nicely done by Magnus with the black pieces. We'll see if Fabi is able to bounce back. And yeah, for those of you who are into that kind of thing, Magnus did win this game with a 98.2% accuracy, which is quite a lot, and it means that the strongest engine that they are currently using to analyze the games that are being played agrees with Magnus at a 98.2%. So yeah, very nicely done by Magnus. And like I said, we're also going to check out the other game between Nodrbek and Levon. So let's check that out. Nodrbek had the white pieces, and it's like a super quick game because we have 13 moves of theory, and then as soon as we get out of theory, it's game over. So e4 was played. We have pawn to e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, and now knight to c3, going for the 3 knights, and knight to f6, going for the 4 knights game. Bishop to c4, and now knight captures on e4. Of course, idea being that if knight captures, d5 can be played, but Nodrbek continues in the style of Morphy. He continues with the sacrificed pawn. Castles, knight captures on c3. Now d captures on c3 again. This is how Morphy played it back in the day. h6, and now queen to d5, putting pressure on f7, threatening checkmate. So queen to f6, and now rook to e1, preparing captures on e5. So d6, and now bishop to b5, just preparing bishop captures on c6, bishop to d7, and now knight to d4, made possible by the rook being on e1, and here just knight to d8. Levon offers trades, and he's very happy with his position. We have pawn to f4, just trying to open up the center to attack the black king, and now c6, attacking the bishop, the queen. And here you think, okay, maybe Nodrbek went a bit too far with this. I mean, what is he doing? He's just playing, coffee chess. This is how you'd play, in a bar, but this can actually be played, because here we have f captures on e5, attacking Levon's queen, and queen back to e7. He says, all right, but again, your queen and bishop are hanging. And here Nodrbek plays pawn to e6, and just look at this amazing position. What is what is this? What is happening here? The pawn can be captured by the pawn, by the bishop, by the queen, by the knight. Okay, obviously not by the queen, but it's the e6 square is definitely attacked 4 times. The bishop can be captured, the queen can be captured. Like what is happening here? Well, can you just trade queens here? No, you most certainly cannot, because if pawn captures queen, then pawn captures bishop with checkmate. Yes, it's check, and the queen cannot move due to the rook on e1. This would be devastating. So another thing you could play is bishop captures, but then you get something like knight captures on c6, and now a very, very complicated position where you actually have to capture with the knight, because if you trade queens here, then knight captures on e7 comes with a discovery, and once you block this, then knight captures on d5 comes with a second discovery, and black just resigns here. So a very tricky position. Here, after this pawn to e6 move, Levon actually captured with the knight, which is perfectly fine, even better for black. And now we have bishop captures on c6. Noderbeck sacrifices a piece. B captures, knight captures, now attacking the queen. And of course, you cannot capture with the bishop, because just queen captures with check, and then the rook hangs. So queen to h4, and now rook to e4. Okay, the rook is attacked. Noderbeck just counters by attacking Levon's queen. He goes back, queen to f6, and now bishop to e3. Look at this incredible development by Noderbeck. And you can still play it, but you have to play rook to c8. You cannot allow this tension to continue building up, but Levon thought it was perfectly fine. He played bishop to e7. He probably even felt really good about it, because if knight captures on e7, he can play king captures, and then the rooks are connected, and his king will be very safe on e7. But he forgot one very important thing, and that is knight captures on e7, but not right away. First, rook to f1. Attacking the queen, we have queen to g6, and now knight captures on e7. King captures, yes, the rooks are connected, and now rook to d1. And here, well, it's a very, very difficult position for Levon, and he is lower on time. He has some 7 minutes, and Noderbeck has 12 minutes on the clock. And he thought, okay, the d6 pawn is hanging. I'm just going to give back some material. I'm just going to play king to f8, and then hide my king on g8 and then h7. But he completely missed that his rook on a8 was hanging. This is what Noderbeck played. And of course, Levon resigned as he blundered a full rook. So yeah, that's why it was so short, only 21 moves. I mean, what are you going to do? And it's not, okay, it's not that Levon just blundered rook. It's because, I mean, look at this, you look at this ugly position. Pawn to e6, he probably just used up all his brain power for this one game after Noderbeck executed this pawn to e6 move, because what do you do when you face such a move with black here? I mean, it's so disgusting. We can even look at it from black's perspective. Look at this. I mean, imagine if you're playing and someone plays this. I mean, what do you play? You just walk up and leave the room. You don't play this. So of course, it had dire repercussions. So yeah, that's the game, or rather those were the games. Hope you guys enjoyed that. If you have any other games that you are enjoying from the Aimchess Rapid or anywhere else, do use hashtag suggestion, and I will definitely go over them. I would like to thank James Eugene Cashman, Paul Miller, Brad Roth, Michael Marshall, and BulletChessThriller.com for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.